We are here in Music Valley in Nashville, Tennessee. This is right by the Grand Ole Opry. It has cheap real estate, some interesting up-and-coming people, and a bunch of vintage. There are several shops in Music Valley that cater to antiques and vintage, and we're going to take a look at a few of them today. The first one in the row is this place with the really cool diving girl, and this place is called Smack. Mainly going to be vintage clothes, and while I don't deal in a lot of that, they do have accessories, and so there are things that even if you're not a vintage clothing person, you may find other interesting things that go along with it in a place like this. Well, first of all, there's some vintage jewelry right in the front here. He told me earlier that this is the $10 case, which seems like a pretty good deal on a lot of this stuff. I definitely see things from the 60s and 70s, a lot of these cluster earrings. They have a nice mesh purse in here as well. That looks like a Whiting and Davis. And then this looks like it's an older style frame with bugle beading, but that leopard print makes me think that might be a little later in time. And there's a neat Enid Collins back there, a little hard to see. It needs a little bit of repair, but I will be looking to see how that turns out when he gets it fixed. Even if you're not specifically a vintage fashion person, there are fun things to see in vintage fashion stores, and actually this one's got a really cool vibe and a lot of really fun stuff. And we're noticing some things coming back into style with vintage, like a lot of these sequin tops from the 1980s and 90s are definitely coming back in, and we're seeing prices, you know, $19 on one and $45 on this one that has a lot of color and detail. So we are starting to see interest in 90s era as well. They have some stuff that's particular to the area. I like the Loretta Lynn Dude Ranch, and there's Brooks and Dunn. I like this old looking Western piece. This actually looks like it was made in America, so we know that's got to be 50 years old. The coats are fun. I like coats because they fit all sorts of different people, but if you're dealing in true vintage fashion store like this, well, you're going to carry all sorts of pieces, because by having this sort of selection, you're going to find something that fits people. A bunch of t-shirts. It looks like some of these may be older. I see a bunch of Grateful Dead. You could definitely dress the part for a night out in the town. This is a cool place to know if you are in the area and this is your vibe. Well, this place has a lot of really great stuff and a dressing room. And then next to the recording studio, I mean, we are in Nashville after all, this is Music Valley Antiques and Marketplace. And because it says and Marketplace, we know it's going to be a mix of vintage. There's going to be new stuff. This is how things often are in this part of the country. But Nashville used to have a lot more antique malls, and there aren't so many now. And because of that, I'm expecting that maybe a lot of things have moved to this one. I like that tree skirt. A crocheted stocking. Granny squares. Well, right away we see music, of course, because we are in Nashville. I like the Showanut child's piano. This is right from about 1900. It even has the little places to put your candle sconces. That is a cute piece, priced at $98, minus 20%. I noticed that this one is having a sale. Nice looking piece here. A lot of these are just wall hangers though, because they have a little bit of damage. A couple of cameras and a neat old typewriter. Cigar mold, $69. That's about what I get for them down in Florida. Cast iron Boston Terrier and the English Bulldog, those are priced at $95. Really, with the 20% off, these are great collector prices because this stuff was all priced fairly. Mark's piano, an original Mark's instrument. It costs $45 new, and this is not the same Mark's that made the toys, by the way. Different company. Smiley face tray. This is an original from the 70s. $32 with the discount. This is a nice Seth Thomas. This was an electric clock. It's still long and low like a mantle clock, because this is going to be right around 1950. Very popular gift at the time. This one's priced at about $28 with the discount. Bunch of old hotel ashtrays from California. A lot of people moving to Nashville from California. This is cute. Not a bad price at 20% off. It's under $10 for the 1970s Al switch plate. Signed Skeeter Davis album. That was somebody my parents enjoyed. She was an early country musician. Well, early relative to us. Obviously, country music's been around a lot longer than any of us have. Thought for today, it is better to get laugh wrinkles than worry warts. Oh, that's cute. 1980s Hallmark plaque. This is the first true antique I've seen, these children's teacups with the animals on them. They're very cute. And the prices on the single ones without the saucers are only $5. This is a Homeco Pagoda fairy lamp. It's one of the more common fairy lamps we see, but it has its original box. And because of that, it's probably worth $30 to $35, and they've got 24 on it. So there's some room, not enough for me to buy to resell. On the other hand, some of these Moriage Japanese turn of the century hair receivers at $10 each might be something I could sell for a profit. It's been long enough that Celebrations by Mikasa is a line that I'm seeing people starting to collect. It's clear glass with holly imprinted. It was mainly a seasonal line, and it seems to me that these prices in the $10 a piece range are about where the market is now. Pocket tape for estimating live weight of beef cattle. Do not stretch it nor let it get wet. That seems like a tall order. Also out of California, in a place that's dry. Oh, 3,560 pounds for estimating the live weight of beef cattle. Apparently cows are very heavy. The plastic 60s wall hanging with the musical instruments seems like an appropriate thing for this area, and it's only $23 with the discount. This is a fun looking space from the outside. I like the old wagon wheel turned into a lamp. This one actually was turned into a lamp by somebody. It's not one of those Sears ones out of the 1960s. The big Snowcraft US mark. This would have actually been for military use, and that's why they're priced at $259. Snowshoes are not really cheap. They're pretty collectible now. An Old Pal bait box there for $44. Not a super cheap price, but obviously they are selling a look here. The Astrojet also seems to have had a crash. Darn, that's too bad. That would have been a nice friction piece from the 60s. Bunch of car emblems here. $1 a piece on these ones that are letters. I wonder what they used to be. Was it a Corvette? I see a V. Z24. Ooh, that was a Camaro. And this is metal. Oh, and it's $3. Well, I think I'm going to get that one. A lot of these seem pretty corroded, but when I see metal emblems and they're under $5, I usually pick them up these days because somebody's got that car, especially a Camaro or something that was a little hotter in the time, as opposed to a Vega Camback. Not as desirable. Also $3. I had a friend who was stuck with one of these. His parents got it as his first car. It was a terrible car. I should send it to him as a joke. 1920 New York license plate. A lot of folks from New York also coming into Nashville. The music industry is really attracting a lot of people from the coasts. 20% off in this space too, and this is $49 before the discount. This is a toy steam engine. These were very popular in the first part of the 20th century. You can tell this has its old cord, which is a little chipped. That part makes me a little nervous. If it works, these used to be pretty expensive. I mean, they were pretty deluxe toys, and this is a nice larger one. The Weatherhead cabinet for all the little parts, including your compression mail connector, was $95, now $75. That's actually a decent price for these now. All of this stuff is really in demand. 40% off in this booth. Well, I see a lot of things that again are more decor than they are necessarily collectible. This is one of those Anchor Hawking bases out of the 80s. The beige is not an exciting color to me. This is an Italian set here. There's always a lot of talk over whether these are Italian or Bohemian, but this one I recognize as Italian, and it even has the label that says so. The condition on the flower is not great, unfortunately, because otherwise, even though it only has 3 cordials, you could buy the bottle and just sell it and not care about an odd number of cordials. It would have been $30 with the discount, but just not quite enough of it there. Francoma piece with the brands. It looks like the Sepulpa clay. You can see the red already just without even turning it over. And this one's going to be $26, which honestly is about the right price. Wow, they just say green glass goblet set. So this is bubble. from about 1960. The sherbets are a smaller size and not as useful to people these days, but that's $12 for 11 glasses. That's $1 a piece. That's a thrift store price. Could definitely make money putting a set of 4 in one place and a set of 6 in another, and probably charge $20 for each. A wooden acorn birdhouse, well, that's something different. Here's the Griswold sample ashtray. It's got the place for the matches and the cigarette butts to go. I think the dealer knows what it is because they had it showing where you could see Griswold, and they have $25 on it, so they're not wrong there. Italian, but there's a chip there. These glazes on a lot of this Italian pottery are very, very thin, and that's why it chips easily, so you really have to check condition. Ooh, one 1980s Art Deco Revival bookend in marble. If there was a pair, I'd be interested. This cowgirl costume is cute though. $40 right out of the 50s. Metal cabinet. I'm used to seeing a lot of this metal industrial furniture in this part of the country especially, and it seems to be very popular here as well for decorating. This one's pressed wood. It's not carved. Look carefully. This is actually done through a heat pressing stamping. That's something they came up with in the 1890s, so it looked carved without doing a lot of work, but it's a neat chair. It's got caning in it. It's a high chair, and then it can be lowered down to be a stroller. So double duty back then. That was priced at $179. It's 40% off. Wow. So that is currently just over $100. That's a pretty good deal for that. This is a neat caddy. I don't think these glasses are original to it. These look like they were opened for something a little rounder, like old fashions. So you have to be careful with that. If it doesn't fit well, it's not original. $28 is a good price though. If you're having fun watching this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you are not a subscriber, please do subscribe, because then we can let you know when we have future things coming up on this channel. Also, check out our live channel and the Antique Nomad Shorts channel. We have lots of fun things to show you. One of the red birds, I'm sure it's a Leo Ward. We can't read the signature under the price, but it's $16 after the discount. This is from the Traymore Hotel in Atlantic City. I've seen this pattern before. I think we had some at our estate sale in Spokane. Lamberton was a company that produced from the 30s to the 60s, mainly for restaurants. Aw, this is cute out of the early 70s, and it's a bank. I mean, it's so ugly, it's cute. Lots of day-glow colors. I don't get the blue hair. $24 less the discount, but boy, they should not have put the tape on top of that paint. That's going to be hard to get off without taking some of the paint away. Have to use a hairdryer on it and be very slow and deliberate. Wow, a flamingo space. This looks like I suddenly was in Florida again. Albums are on sale. Flamingos 15% off the mark price. Well, it looks like a lot of new flamingos. I sure could use some old flamingos. And look there are some. Let's see what our prices are. So 15% off. And oh boy. Oh yeah, there's some stuff here. Interesting. Sometimes when somebody does a specialty, it may be they got a collection or they have access to new, and then they get some old because they see it to put with. I'm excited about this. It's in pretty good shape, not a lot of scratches. 1950s pickled oak. These were actually made in Japan. I've seen them with the label before. I'm going to get this because $14.99 less 15% is a great price. They're saying these are rare flamingo prints. You don't see the small size that often, but that doesn't make them rare. They want 60 for two, 30 online, 35 to 40 each in Florida. It's close, I don't know. And then there's this. Ooh, $4.99. This is great. It's vintage. It's one of a pair. Oh, it's got a little bit of a bruise where somebody dropped it. That's too bad. It's Miller Studio. It's a neat piece. But well, we'll see if we can wash this out with something else and justify paying the price on these. Oh, look there. Treasure Craft barrel line. Set of 4 for $54. That is a reasonable price. And it is the plastic handled version, so that's 1960s. They changed to wood handles in the 70s, which honestly wore a little better with time. But the copper bands are in good shape, and it doesn't look like any damage. That came out in 1955 originally and stayed in their line for almost 20 years. This little one is cute. Looks like the Campbell's Soup Kids. Looks like they got it at an auction, because that's an auction sticker if I've seen one. Hubley Campbell's Soup Boy and Girl doorstop, $98. This one I do not see as often. Hardware sale. That almost looks like the Fat Bird Finds bird. Oh, a Coke radio, $25 on that. Ooh, the Bullfrog model kit. This would be fun. $24 is about the right price, but it looks like it's in great shape. I see some Mexican throws, and I like the old Mexican tooled leather purse. These are really, really well done. I mean, the craftsmanship was really great, and they definitely are a look that are popular, especially in country places like this. Very pretty stained glass with the backlighting, $175. I got to see Minnie Pearl and Grandpa Jones at the Grand Ole Opry when they were still around. That was pretty great. Percolators were a big new thing in the 1920s, and here is a great set with the Bakelite handles from right about 1930. It has the original cream and sugar, part of the Chromecraft line by Farber Brothers. Chromecraft was an entire line. It wasn't just the glassware that was made for them by Cambridge Glass, but it all had chrome. That was the unifying thing, and Farber Brothers was the one who made it. Really nice designs out of New York from the 30s, $92. This is cute, and it looks like something from the 70s until you get close. The crackling is intentional. The glaze is very sloppy at the bottom. It's got burn marks at the top. This is made in perhaps Vietnam or somewhere in Southeast Asia. Little felt pads. Everything about this is wrong. It is not vintage. Wedding toppers are definitely a collectible area. This one with the guy looking very 60s could be the best one of the lot, because it feels like chalkware all the way through, including the base. Somebody found something besides me. We are the world. See, the 80s is coming back. I am not making it up. Well, this guy and I are having some fun here in Nashville. This looks like it's their Christmas space, and it is jolly and merry, and it's getting close enough to Christmas that it's now 15% off. I like these candles. These actually do have some vintage. I'd say probably right around 1980, but they're $8 each. I haven't seen those before. I've had this guy before, the hollow blow mold with the cardboard back. And you know, they seem to have about the usual prices, $40 on the small Mary and the small Joseph. Anna Lee dolls, some of the buyer's choice made in Pennsylvania. So they're having some fun here. I personally still like the 50s era stuff. And one thing people have been mentioning is they're not seeing snow globes. And here's one right here for Frosty the Snowman, and it still works. It's got a little chip in the back, unfortunately. If it wasn't for that, the $60 price would not be unreasonable at all. I loved the Fisher-Price Airport when I was a kid. I never owned it. I had friends who did. I thought it was the most amazing thing because I wanted to fly all over the place. Look at the circus bed tray from the 1930s or 40s. Great graphics. It's got little wells so you can keep all of your supplies in it and do your work in your bed. And now that we have laptop computers, these really are convenient in a way that they didn't used to be for a long time. So I sell these every time I get them now. Love this wall unit here. I'm sure at 10% off, the wall unit is still probably $2,000 or so because it's a really good one, but we'll take a look. And yep, sure enough, $2,100, so about $1,800 and something with the discount. Cocktail shaker, $39.50. Yeah, they seem to be going $40 to $50 now with the recipes on them. This one is as is, so $16, but you see it's got a big corrosion point there. If you could find another lid, it'd be worth it. And then these are Ring from Anchor Hawking, 1930s and 40s era. This one is one of the later Coco Joes. Ku, the god of strength. Treasurecraft did Ku as well. There were a lot of different tiki gods depending on what they were celebrating. Ah yes, here we go, the classic at $27. This Italian vase behind here is also cute. Looks like 70s work, similar to what you see on the patterns of Vera linens from the United States, and that one's priced at $40 with the discount. Kanawha ewer here, they have it priced at $40 with the discount. That's a fair, reasonable retail price. $35 on the decanter minus 10%, $75 on the green bottle minus 10%. These are realistic prices that are going to sell this stuff. I think some folks who are dealing in mid-century now have the notion that anything that is avocado is worth $1 million. People really want the stuff that's designer name. That's where they're going to pay the big money. And the rest of it should be cute and cool and accessible so you can use it. Like this, which is only $75 now, right out of the 70s. Great price if you had a place you needed to put it in your house. So I think these folks are doing it right, and they've got some really cute stuff. I haven't seen anything quite cheap enough for me to buy for resale. These originally had little round trays in them, not specifically ashtrays, although they could be used for that. People will buy them without, but they're technically not really complete without them. They want $50 for the pair, which is a decent price for those. These are cute because you don't usually see the king's crown with this flared edge, and they are $27 for 5 of them. A bunch of Cornish ware here. This stuff sells well for me. $19.50 for the little sage pot is not bad. Cocoa nut, and I love the spelling on that. And that one is priced at $19.50. Pink spaghetti poodle for $12.60 with the discount. Well, there's a big crack up the side of it. I thought that was too good to be true. These fuzzy ones are $18. Bottle sand painting for $25. Oh yes, Holiday Inn. They used to give these out so that when you were traveling, you could play bingo, and you did it by finding different cars on the road, because this is back when there were a lot of American cars. Well, nowadays you'd have to go to a classic car meet to play this game, but just by covering up all the companies that no longer are car companies producing in the United States, we almost got a blackout. Joyful Christmas greetings. Some neat old golden era postcards, and slightly later, when you see the wider borders, this is a little later. The first ones are printed all the way to the edge. Very pretty. I would have loved the Play School parking garage with 6 cars when I was a kid. Now it'll be $65 to relive that memory. We are in Grand Ole Opry land. We are literally one exit from the Grand Ole Opry, and old stuff from the Opry is definitely hard to find. This is an old seat cushion from the Ryman Auditorium given out by WSM when that was the station that broadcast country music and introduced it to the rest of the world. $85. Oh, and look, Mr. Whiffle even signed the role of Charmin. Wow. And that's only $35, and the t-shirt is $45. I think I'd take the signed toilet paper. Besides, we know toilet paper sometimes gets really expensive and hard to get. Now they have dancing bears who use toilet paper. I don't get it. My mother had this scale, not in this color, but with the shag carpeting, because it was the early 70s. And the bathroom might even have shag carpeting in the early 70s. That's really funny. I'm surprised any of these have lasted, because if they got used a lot with wet feet, they got pretty gross. $35. Here's a Christmas pattern. This is Friendly Village by Johnson Brothers. A very classic winter scene you could actually use past Christmas, of course, because it showed the old farmstead in snow. They have a bunch of the egg cups here. The condition is not great on all of these, but we'll show you this one that's a little cleaner so you get a better idea of the pattern. They did whole tableware sets in this, and you'll only see the England stamp because there wasn't room to put Johnson Brothers on it. Brenda Lee exhibit, the Country Music Hall of Fame, is really pretty amazing. I highly recommend it if you're in the area. I got to see it when Johnny Cash was the feature. That was quite a while ago. This looks like Cal Originals, and yes, there's the signature. They did these deep red glazes as well as the bright orange. Very distinctive, those colors. I think it's some of the better stuff they made. They want $26 for that. This is Modglins. Modglins did similar hand painting, lots of curly cues, not quite as elaborate around the lashes as Kay Finch, but definitely a similar style. And there's even a very, very weak ink stamp on the bottom. $22 on her. I like the sled. We had something similar to that when I was a kid. Boy, $74. I don't think we hung on to ours. Musician Angel Bell Climber set in the original box. And this is a more complicated piece that would be hard to find. The Salt and Pepper Santa and Mrs. Claus in the sleigh. This is by Christ. Christ did more interesting and more complicated work. among the 1950s Japanese companies. They did the psychoceramics. This one is priced at $135. People didn't usually spend a lot of money back then, so this probably was a premium product and didn't sell a lot. The Fenton Yellow Lab, several Fenton Santas here in the $135 range, only $85 on the seated one. Enesco's Middle-Aged Man Painting, and he says, middle-aged do-it-yourself specialist. Looks like a friend of mine's husband, but she can't get him to paint anything, so I probably better not start a fight. Fiesta Ware, the green is a 50s color. The other colors are original. There's the ivory, the cobalt, the orange red, the yellow, and they seem to be priced about $15 each. Zeno used to work at the Opryland theme park, and there are some maps from it right there. Back in the old days, it is now a big mall. Next door to Music City is Vinterest, where pickers and artisans gather. Vin makes you think vintage. The stuff in the window makes me think maybe. I'm going to give it a try. This may not be our kind of place. This may mainly be decorative stuff, but we'll see. They might have a vintage item or two. There's a lot of decorator goods. There's a lot of giftware. They'll probably do well this season. Folk art in a bottle. Interesting what they're doing with found objects here. There's part of an old trophy and bones in a vase. Machinist chests here is something that people are buying because they're using it to house collections. Here's the drawer that comes out that would cover up the front. $60 is a pretty good price on those. They had gone up to over $100 a few years ago. Every piece of jadeite you see here is a reproduction, so commit that to memory if you can. Notice the colors are just a little off from the Fire King, and they're not quite the McKee colors either, but every one of these is a fake. A little more vintage in here, the Indiana Pitcher. This is a nice alligator purse, but it's certainly not a $275 nice alligator purse. There's the Friendship Bird Pyrex for $55. Some other Pyrex here, so there is some vintage intermixed. Here's our glass dealer. We had to figure there'd be one in a place like this. And they've got some cool pieces. I like the Empoli. Anything that looks like minarets is always good with me. They have very tiny price tags, but I think that's $66. They want $150 on the moon and stars. It's a good piece, but I don't think that color sells for as much as that. These are Fostoria Jamestown from the 70s. I've always liked these. They're $15 each. $70. Yeah, I have to say the modernist dealer with the glass in the other place, I think, had a more realistic view, although they are at the same price on the Kanawa piece. First famous Amos cookie jars were made by Treasure Craft. I think this is a later one because it's not as textured, and I think this is just a decal slapped on. Yes, this is a later offshore version. I always thought that the bag was a clever idea. Professional record and tape dealer here. So this would be a place to find stuff you wanted for your collection. It's not going to be a bargain hunter's place. It's definitely bright and festive in here. And they've got lots of things that seem fun, but again, they are not old. Giant Lazy Susans from the Philippines were in a lot of houses when I was growing up, and you can see the problem with them. The pieces were individual and they would fall out and break. So it's priced at $48. If it was in perfect shape, that'd be a fine price. Bunch of Breyer horses here. We expect to see horses in Nashville because this is horse country, and they have reasonable prices on these. I see $14 on one. They have a bunch of Pyrex here, and everybody knows the Pyrex. It's priced about right. Here's a bunch of nutcrackers. I like the one that looks like a doctor, but it's only 2006, so that to me is still pretty contemporary. Book dealer. Crafters. Clothing, but this looks like it's new stuff, so I think we're going to go on to the next store. Okay, this place has the cool stuff. They definitely have the modernist furniture here. They definitely have what looks like some legit mid-century art by artists that people might recognize, although that one's only $75. They have a really groovy big low chair here. $12.95. This is a Castro satellite chair, and it is definitely fun as can be. Elvis is calling from the great beyond. Oh yeah, it's a popcorn popper. Absolutely, yeah, you would put oil in that kind.
The one we have is cooler.
I agree. I like the palm tree set here too. Everything in moderation. Well, yes, $75 on that set is a moderate price. Really like the lamp here, but it looks like it's a newer one from the wiring. However, the Italian stacking tables are definitely Cartel Stupino, and it is a cute little table set that nests for $425. The plastic stuff's expensive now. Oh, and they have the Homeco, everything from the 70s, frog, mushroom, butterfly. It's all here in one panel. I bought one of these years ago and people thought I was nuts, and now they're selling for $70. It's a pre-way. It's a decent style. It's got a little bit of damage. $1,000?
2,000.
2,000. That's a little optimistic, but they're getting harder and harder to find. And the mola here, this is cool as well. Framed, $95 with the cat. Homeco butterfly band, I like that too, and that band is $50.
Ice skater.
The ice skater, oh yes, and she would have had Amanda go with her on the other side. That's really cool. Unfortunately, they were male and female matches, and so when one gets broken, well, then you've only got one, but $225 is still a fair price for her. I like these. These look like the Milo Bauman designs. These chairs, they've matched them with a kind of ho-hum table. The old Frisell, this is very uncomfortable, but if you find it in good condition, it sells really well. I got $200 for the last set I sold in this color, but that was 20 years ago. You just don't see it in good shape very often. I do like this place. It definitely has a feel. It's nice to see that there's a place that has modernist furniture in one spot here, because a lot of this, when the downtown mall closed here and the Tennessee Mall, we weren't sure where all this stuff was going to go, but we're seeing new people bringing in fresh stock, and some of the old folks who had good stock have found places for it to go. Behind the cat here is this really cool double lamp, and they are chock full of Empoli glass and a little bit of bittersweet. The prices for anything decent are starting at $100 and going up from there. Another great wall unit here, as popular as these are, if I could find a deal on one, I'd send it back to Seattle. I need it for my space, but $1,700 is about what I would get. This style with these interesting little X's is a Martinsville design from the 1960s. This place definitely looks like you could just move right in. Spaghetti lamps. Here is a great old mechanical fireplace. Unlike the pre-way, it has the electric logs, and it says that it does heat up the room, which it does because it has an actual heater behind it, and that one's priced at $625. I love the shape of this kidney table. Love those shades. Those shades are just fantastic. Priced at $13.50, and well, I think that's a dreamer price. I do understand that it's hard to find these shades now. Oh, Treasure Craft.
Missing.
Yeah, they were supposed to have an insert there. Sometimes it was the little menehune on the pineapple. They had other inserts that went there to hold your hors d'oeuvres, and they're almost always gone because people would use the trays, forget about that, and then they'd get separated. But you're right, it did originally have a second part. Cute little jeweled trinket box from the 1920s. It's priced at only $25, and I would be tempted at that price, but the lid is not really staying on well, so I think it's been bent a bit. Probably could fix that. Siamese bookends for $30 from about 1970. Ooh, look at that panther lamp. Paperweight here. Let's see if they've caught up with paperweights. $25. They say 1960s. It's definitely newer. And it has the Murano label that we are finding suspicious now. So then you have to look at the quality. And if you look at the quality of that Millefiori, look how blobby and sort of uneven those rods are. I do not think that is really Murano.
I'm calling it Vipers.
Oh, interesting.
Vintage looking bird.
Ah, well, it's definitely vintage looking. And it looks like they're actually old because they've been used a few times. We see a lot of the repros of these.
Yeah, we'll look at the damage.
Yeah, Yeah, from being cooked. Yeah, no, these seem real. There was a time I would have bought them at that price.
One the same price, damaged, and the one's not.
I don't think they paid as close attention. That's one of the things you have to do when you're shopping, because dealers get all excited and they just put prices on things sometimes, and they're not always careful. I don't know what's going on with that guy or these people, but something strange. And here's another interesting shape. The torso lamp. It's a nice older shade. And it looks like it's actually an older wire too, so this piece has some age. It's priced at $295. Ah, yes, the classic California Originals orange ashtray and lighter with the lava glaze. $90 on that. $50 on this Moroccan style, as they call it, leather ottoman. We had that same ottoman when I was a kid, except ours was perfectly round. I kind of like the shape of that one better. It's priced at $50. $3.95 on the Kanawa piece back there. It's ottoman style lamp. I'd like to take a lot of this stuff with me to Florida, but understandably they want retail because of where they are located. 10% off of the pair of Sullivan style lamps would be $800 for the pair. Cool hanging lamps. I especially like this one with the acrylic panels. Priced at $325. Bittersweet in the $250 range on the taller pieces, and I love these lamps. They're just plastic, but they have the greatest glow. But they want $400 for the pair, and I know the smaller ones are selling for $100 each, so I guess that's possible. And if you go to the hip church social, you should bring this percolator, the West Bend, for $75. The Lane lamp.
This one's missing eyes, right?
Yeah, they're almost always missing the eyes. Some of the rhinestone jewelry repairers have those. Okay, so we're in the last showroom here, and it really is like a showroom. I mean, I had this same exact rack. I sold it at one of my malls. I kind of regret letting it go. It was a store rack from the 1970s, and I doubt that they're selling theirs either. Oh, they are. Timbre d'Or Etagé, $325. I don't think I got quite as much as that for mine. Great sofa here. This looks like an Adrian Pearsall design. Let's see if they tell us any more about it. Yes, it is the gondola sofa from when he was with Craft Associates. It looks like it's the original upholstery, and they are asking $49.95 for that. And one more. This is a Spin-a-Fire carousel fireplace. I have never seen one of these before. The fact that you could see it from all sides makes it really cool in that regard. It's by Malman. It is $2,500, but I can't say I've seen that model before. Ooh, the Groove Room is open. And they got some blacklight posters, which seem to be new ones, inspired by old ones. I have a bunch of uranium glass. This is all 30s Depression glass. Playboy magazines. Yes, this is quite a groovy space. I like this lamp too. Looks like something that would have been in a Dairy Queen in the 60s. 90th anniversary of Kit Kat clock since 1932. Amazing. I did not know they'd been around that long, and yes, they are still made in the USA. Well, that was sure a fun place to look around, and we've got one more odd place to show you in this strip too. This is a new concept in cat rescue, Catio Cat Lounge. So far, 3,700 cats out for adoption in the last 4 years. And part of their fundraising, besides selling things associated with cats, is that you can come hang out with kitties.
Come to do the antiques and the vintage. Stop and see the kitties.
Stop and see the kitties. Spend $6 for a good cause, and there's all of the kitty material you could possibly want. There is one other attraction in Music Valley that is worth noting because it has to do with vintage things. Who was Cooter? Doesn't that seem familiar? This will give you a little context. That is the Hazard County Garage pickup truck that oftentimes was sent out to tow the General Lee on the Dukes of Hazzard. This is the semi-official museum for the Dukes of Hazzard. The guy who played Cooter actually was quite a good businessman and apparently did very well in life, even though that was just a bit part for him. He was able to put it together, and along with Catherine Bach, who played Daisy Duke, they have this free admission museum, which is mostly a store, but we'll show you a few things in there. Same with the Willie Nelson and Friends Museum showcase. They destroyed a lot of General Lees in the making of this TV show. In fact, I think something like 70 were destroyed. There's the game signed by all of the folks. It's really amazing how many premiums were made. Sleeping bags, pillows, linens, models, and lunch boxes. And of course, the famous poster of Catherine Bach at the time. This is them showing how it came to be in Covington, Georgia when they were first filming. I don't mean there was a little merchandise. This show was one of the first to really heavily merchandise itself. And of course, there's a lot of controversy because a lot of the merchandise featured the rebel battle flag. But it is absolutely a collectible area now. I always pick up Dukes of Hazzard stuff anytime I see it. The show itself was pretty formula, but the formula worked, and there are a whole lot of collectibles as a result, and a few now aging hunks. Record player, puzzles, the little kepi hat. Since this is the de facto museum, they do have some other stuff like this was one of the props. It's a Hull drip glaze pitcher. There's Boss Hogg with the bubblegum cigars, Viewmaster reels, just an incredible amount of stuff done around 1980 relating to this television show. Hazard County Garage. Cooter must have really liked that one. A General Lee beanbag chair for a kid, a guitar. Oh yes, they've got it all. Here's a bunch of the scripts. No, this is not my bus. I wish it was. Someone famous is here apparently. The other end of Music Valley on this back row where the Vintage is another club.
If you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.